In 1897, 3 men set out to reach the North Pole, not by ship, not by sled, but in a hydrogen balloon. Then, they vanished. For over 30 years, no one knew what happened, until their frozen bodies were found on a remote island in the Arctic. What drove them? What failed them? And what secrets did the ice keep hidden all that time? By the late 19th century, as most of the world had been discovered, the Arctic remained a mystery. The North Pole was the final prize for explorers. Dangerous, remote, and still unconquered. For Sweden, lagging behind Norway and other nations in polar achievements, the pressure was on. The man at the center of this expedition was SalomonAndrée, a Swedish engineer and ballooning enthusiast. Andree was a respected scientist and a skilled publicist, able to rally support and funding for his unorthodox plan. He was joined by Knut Frenkel, a civil engineer with a reputation for resourcefulness, and Niels Strindberg, a young physicist and photographer. All 3 were highly educated, ambitious, and chasing a place in history. Andree's idea was simple, in theory. Launch a hydrogen balloon from Danes Island in Svalbard, ride the wind over the North Pole, and land somewhere on the other side of the Arctic Ocean, perhaps Alaska, Canada, or Russia. The balloon, Örnen, the Eagle, was built to carry supplies, scientific instruments, and the 3 men for months. But there was one massive problem: steering. Andree believed that by dragging ropes below the balloon, he could steer using friction against ice and water. Experts were skeptical. No one had ever done this, especially not in the violent winds of the high Arctic. Problems emerged before the expedition ever left the ground. During test inflations, Niels Ekholm, the original meteorologist, discovered that the balloon leaked hydrogen at a rate that would doom a long flight. He insisted on repairs or a new balloon. Andree, under pressure from sponsors and the Swedish public, downplayed the risks. Ekholm, unwilling to risk his life, withdrew from the team. Andree replaced him with Frenkel and pressed ahead. On Danes Island, the team built a massive hangar to shield the balloon. They brought everything they might need for months of survival and research: food, weapons, sledges, scientific instruments, even a foldable boat. The expedition captured the public imagination. Newspapers reported every detail. Even the Swedish king offered his personal support. Across the country, anticipation grew. This wasn't just an expedition of science and exploration. It had become a matter of national pride. In 1896, the first launch attempt was aborted due to bad weather and technical issues. The team returned the next year, determined to try again. On July 11, 1897, with conditions finally favorable, the balloon was inflated, and the 3 men climbed aboard. Telegrams were sent to Stockholm. The Eagle was airborne. But from the moment they left the ground, everything began to go wrong. Launch day was dramatic and almost immediately problematic. Overloaded with supplies and heavy drag ropes, the balloon struggled to lift. As it rose, tangled ropes tore away almost at once, and Andree's key steering system disappeared within minutes. Rising higher than planned, hydrogen loss accelerated. To stay aloft, the men jettisoned ballast and equipment, fighting to avoid crashing into the sea. For 2 days, the Eagle drifted across the Arctic sky, battered by winds and coated in ice. Uncontrollable, the men became passengers rather than pilots, at the mercy of the elements. After just 295 miles, about 475 kilometers, less than a third of their planned route, the balloon crashed onto the pack ice. Now began a desperate fight to survive the Arctic wilderness. The men salvaged what they could: food, weapons, sledges, scientific instruments, and Strindberg's camera. Their only option was to trek south, hauling sledges across the shifting, broken ice. They faced pressure ridges, open leads of water, and terrain that constantly shifted beneath their feet. Yet, they documented everything. Their diaries detailed progress, setbacks, and daily routines. They hunted seals and polar bears, melted ice for drinking water, and rationed their supplies with scientific precision. Strindberg's photographs, later recovered, show the bleak landscape and the men's struggle to adapt. Despite their scientific backgrounds, nothing could fully prepare them for the relentless cold, exhaustion, and isolation. For 3 months, the trio made slow, grueling progress. They aimed for Franz Josef Land, but the drifting ice carried them east. Eventually, they set their sights on Kvitoya, White Island, a remote, ice-covered scrap of land in the Barents Sea. By October, they reached the island, exhausted and running out of options. Their diaries end abruptly. The last entries, dated October 1897, describe their arrival and attempts to set up camp. Then, silence. Theories include hypothermia, trichinosis from undercooked polar bear meat, or carbon monoxide poisoning from their stove. The Arctic had claimed them, as it had so many before. For 33 years, the fate of Andrée's expedition remained a mystery. Search parties found nothing. Some believed the men died within days. Others imagined they had survived for months, maybe even reached the pole. The mystery only grew with time. But in 1930, a Norwegian expedition landed on Kvitoya and made a chilling discovery. They found the expedition's final camp, a collapsed tent, scattered gear, notebooks, and the bodies of all 3 men, perfectly preserved by the cold. Strindberg's camera was recovered, and the film was developed, revealing stark images of the journey. The diaries and photographs found on Kvitoya were a treasure trove, documenting technical failures, daily routines, and the men's relentless effort to survive in one of the most hostile places on Earth. The photographs offer a rare visual record of a vanished world. The balloon, the sledges, the endless ice. But one question remained. What killed them? Autopsies and later analyses suggest a combination of factors led to their deaths: extreme cold, exhaustion, malnutrition, and possibly food poisoning. The stove used in their final camp may have produced lethal carbon monoxide. The men were found in different positions, one inside the tent, another just outside, and one further away. It appeared to be a sudden collapse, a final moment they didn't see coming. The Andree expedition is a case study in the dangers of overconfidence and the limits of technology. Andree's faith in drag ropes and balloon navigation was not supported by evidence or experience. Worse, serious flaws, like hydrogen leaks, were known before launch but ignored. The team's scientific discipline and detailed record-keeping are admirable, but they could not overcome the harsh realities of the Arctic. For disaster historians, the expedition illustrates the importance of listening to expert warnings, rigorous testing, and contingency planning. For polar historians, it's a reminder of how little was known about the Arctic environment at the time, and how quickly ambition can turn to tragedy. When their remains were returned to Sweden in 1930, it became a national event. Monuments were built, and the story entered Swedish folklore. The recovered diaries and photographs were published, offering a rare first-person view into a polar disaster. The Arctic balloon expedition of 1897 remains one of history's most fascinating polar mysteries. It combined the optimism of the age with the harsh reality of the Arctic. The technical failures, the struggle for survival, and the enduring mystery of their final days continue to captivate historians and disaster researchers alike. What do you think was the expedition's greatest mistake? Let us know in the comments. If you want more stories of history's boldest plans and most dramatic disasters, subscribe and join me for the next journey.